Recording. Good afternoon. I'm Nancy Allen. I serve as the Executive Director for the National Consortium for Health Science Education, and it's our pleasure to sponsor, along with our teacher organization, the Health Science Educators Association, these Wednesday webinars. We offer them twice a month. We try to work around holidays or school breaks, although we know there's lots of calendars that we're working with. But I did want to introduce the president-elect, and her name is Lissa Bartle. Lissa, are you with us? She might be on mute. There she is. Lissa teaches.
There, but she's muted.
Okay. Lissa teaches in Florida, and she's also taught in Texas and Colorado, so she's quite the world traveler. And then our secretary is Amanda Boland. And Amanda, did you want to just tell them a little bit about the newsletter and that type of thing?
Yes. So hopefully you all received a newsletter yesterday. If you were a member of HSEA, if you did not, we would like for you to put your email address in the chat. And that way we can put it in our list of people so we can make sure you get it next time. If you aren't a member of HSEA and you would like to become a member, I'm going to put the website in there for that. And what this is a teacher organization it's just educators helping educators. And there's a lot of different resources and things like that we put out there so that we can help our friends. So we encourage you to join, and yeah, that's about it.
Thanks, Amanda. And when you put that link in there for membership, would you also put the Facebook link? And you don't have to be a member of the Teacher Association if you're on Facebook, you want to be a part of the Facebook group for the teachers. It is amazing. There's almost 3,000 teachers from across the nation that are a part of this Facebook group. And we're so encouraged by the sharing and the help and the networking that goes on there. It's just a pleasure to watch how teachers are so willing to be helpful to other teachers. So with that, I won't take any more. Feel free to put any questions you have in the chat. We'll be monitoring that for Theresa. We're very fortunate to have Theresa with us. She's done a couple of webinars for us in the past. So if you heard her, then you know she's good at what she does. And she's a former classroom teacher. And now she has her own business. But she thinks she has kind of a unique way of introducing or sustaining fundraising for your programs. So with that, Theresa, I'll let you tell them whatever else you want them to know about yourself, and take it over. And I'll wait for you to prompt me when to advance the slides.
When to hit the slides. Thank you all for being here, and thanks, Nancy, for having me back again. So again, my name is Theresa Bloom. I was a 10-year classroom teacher and one of the first to get their master teacher in health sciences certification. I was in that first cohort. Highly recommend it if you have that opportunity. I'm a great fan of Nishi and all things HOSA. My family pretty much bled HOSA because that was the only way they saw me. But 3 of my 4 children competed. The 4th one was a chaperone and judge, and my husband was a chaperone and judge for many years. So very much about career and technical education. And I built our program from 39 students with no goals to 150 with a waiting list of that many. So was at it for quite a while, left there, became a school nurse, left there and went back and got a master's degree in organizational leadership and opened my own business. So now I do consulting and business development and nonprofit development with different groups, small and large, all over the country. And the reason I wrote this book, and I started this actually back when I was still teaching, was that we were tasked with, like most of you, we were small school, not a lot of students in a smaller community. And I would raise typically $45,000 in 2.5 months. with the students, and not a lot of buy-in from our administration. School district was helpful, our own administration, not so much. And I decided there just really had to be an easier way, and fundraising needs to look at not just dollars and cents, but how do you build something that is sustainable over the long term? For those of you, was it Mary who has, I think it was, oh, and I'm going to turn off my video and pop it right back on. This is why Nancy is doing the forwarding of the slides. My computer decided it did not want to come back from break, or either that or it was reacting to the snow that we really didn't get a lot of. Anyway, so this is a program and a toolkit that I have that I put together that's about building a program that is sustainable. So whether you have a 3-year program or a 1-year program, you know, if you have a 1-year program, you can't be talking about, you know, planned giving and sustained donors and that sort of thing, because your parents and that move on. So how do you build a program that is sustainable, that you don't have to reinvent every year? Nancy, you want to go advance this piece? There we go. So I believe you should always start with the end in mind. These are some basic marketing principles, and then a little bit more. And so we start with, I say, why do you need to raise money? When you're talking about you're suddenly needing to raise money, is it for SLC or ILC? Okay, that's fine. Why do you need to raise money? What is the benefit to the students? You need to know what your benefits are, because when you're out fundraising, you're competing against thousands of others, and in your own community and within your school, there are so many clubs and organizations, and everyone's got their hand out. They want to know why. How is it going to benefit the students? What are they going to get out of it? And so that why is very important, not just you know, because they get to go to, you know, Disneyland or Dallas or you know, Florida or whatever, because nobody wants to fund the students' vacation, for them to go on vacation. And we already know it is not, if you've been, it is not your vacation. Although people may say that, oh, look, you get to go on vacation to Disneyland with 30 people, other people's children. No, that's not a vacation. So what is the benefit? What are you raising the money for? So within that, why are you raising money? Well, is it for the registration costs? Is it the hotel? Is it, you know, is it bus rides? Is it meals? What are you raising money for? And every different group is going to have specific rules and regulations. The university was attached to the community college where I taught, and they would fund a lot of things, but they would not fund meals. So you need to be aware of all of that, but what are you raising the money for? So people want to know where their money is going anymore. Again, tight market, lots of people asking for donations. You're going to want to know your specific costs. And in this toolkit that I put together, there's actually a sheet that you can fill out and you can replicate it, because the toolkit is made, and I call toolkit is the book, is made to be used year after year after year. So what are your expenses? Let's list them all out. How much is registration? How much is hotel? How much is airfare, excuse me, or the cost of a bus? And then beyond that, get down to the nitty gritty. If you're taking a shuttle bus, or even the airport, the hotel's free bus, how much are you tipping? How much are you tipping housekeeping? Because that all starts to add up when you have lots of rooms. Break it out by student, how much it's going to cost per student. Don't forget to include your costs. Unless you're fortunate enough to have a district that says, or a school that says, we're going to pay your costs to go, you need to take your costs and put them in there, unless you are incredibly wealthy and philanthropic and you want to donate the cost of your attending that conference for those many days. So make sure all of that is in there. Put it out on a spreadsheet, because that's going to help you then to figure out how much you still need to come in and which different groups you can approach for different costs. Okay. When do you need it? Oh, go back one, sorry. When do you need it and how much do you need? Know what your deadlines are. and know that you need to get that much money by that time. And then know your regulations. What does your school district say? What does your individual school say about fundraising and what you can and cannot do? I think Texas has some of the stricter rules, Nancy, if I recall. There are some districts that have some pretty tight regulations about what kind of fundraising you can do and when. And so you want to know those before you start, so you don't end up damaging your chances to raise money. Okay, now let's go to the next one.
Okay.
Marketing 101. So why do you even need to think about marketing? This is HOSA. It is not FBLA or DECA. Because marketing and how you present, marketing is not just the fundraising piece. Marketing is the part of this that is everything that you do. How your students present themselves to the community, both in fundraising and in just their, if they're doing clinicals, how are they presenting themselves to the community? If they're speaking before a group to ask for money, how are they representing themselves to the community? All of that, who you are, what you do, what is the benefit to the community, that's all part of Marketing 101. Okay. So know your why. Not only should you know your why, the students need to know their why. Nothing worse than having somebody come to the door and ask you for money. And I always say, so tell me what you're raising money for. Band. Yeah, but what are you going to do with that? Band stuff. Where is it going to take you? To a band competition? I want to know the why. Why are you doing this? And your students should know why also. And so when it comes to fundraising, or when it comes to explaining your program, appearing before the booster club, the school board, a business, they should have a script. Everybody should be on the same page and know your why. What is your brand? What makes your students stand out in a crowd? This is so important, because otherwise they are just another group of students coming to your front door, coming to the booster club. You want to create a brand, and that takes time. If somebody says, and what we did is not what everybody can do, but what we did is when we had guest speakers or our students went out and presented, because we didn't have school uniforms, they wore blue polo shirts, royal blue polo shirts, and black or khaki slacks. That was just a rule that we instituted because it looked professional. It wasn't fancy, but it looked professional. And you know what? Over time, people started associating that with those HOSA kids. They looked professional. They had a script. They knew what they were about. And so when they did their asks, it was a lot easier. We also, at the farmers markets downtown that we had all summer, we had a booth that was first aid and water. We made the water available for a donation. We rarely use the first aid booth, but those kids look good inside that booth. They had the little cot, the wheelchair, they had some blood pressure machines. Sometimes people would walk by and say, hey, can you take my blood pressure? Sure, great practice for the kids. But we also had lots of people coming by saying, I was in HOSA when. And that was a great source of income for them. But you want to figure out your brand and stand out in the crowd. And that's also going to help you decide how you're going to fundraise. So what sets your group apart from others? You don't want to be everybody selling candles, gift wrap, handbags. What am I forgetting? Those little cards, right? Because that association just doesn't stick in people's minds. Start thinking about how your students can set themselves apart. What can they do in terms of events or participation in events? Those sort of things that become their identifiers. Takes time to build trust. I remember, and it's been some years now, but there was a big article in the newspaper because some guy had watched some kids come from one of the high schools in the area, raising money for one of the sports teams. He was, really about supporting the schools. He gave them a cash donation. He looked out the window as they were leaving. They took the cash out of their wallet or out of the envelope and stuck it in their pockets. Ooh. And of course that made the paper, and that hurt everybody's efforts. So you need to build trust that what you do, you deliver. If you're doing a fundraiser, you make sure that it is so transparent about what portion of the money is going to the cause, what is going on, how is that going to affect everybody. But you build trust, you're true to your word. The nice thing is in healthcare providers, specifically nurses, have what? They're like ranked number 2, 1 or 2 as far as trusted people in the nation. So that's a good thing.
And teachers are too, Theresa.
Huh?
And teachers are up there
Teachers
too.
are also, yes. I think it's nurses, doctors, and teachers.
Yeah. So when
And I
you
don't remember if teachers are 1 or 2, 1 or 3, and then yeah, nurses are in there. So I think that's that's amazing. You want to teach customer service. I'm a big advocate also of taking some time and running a customer service program. I'm hoping to launch one. I've used FISH before, FISH customer service training, spelled just like it sounds. It's an awesome one. But you want to teach students to how to approach somebody, how to send out a request for money. You want them to, by the way, bring it to you. Never release anything that you haven't spell checked. And if you're not good at spelling, please have somebody else spell check it. That is the fastest way for me as a business person to throw something in the garbage. If it's incorrectly spelled, if the grammar's bad, I don't care how dedicated these kids are, I'm not going to look at it. And by the way, I administer a nonprofit fund through our school district foundation that's given out over $20,000 already to extracurricular activities. So that does matter. Teach them how to say please and thank you, how to talk to older adults, which should be part of your curriculum anyway in healthcare, how to say thank you when the answer is no, and how to ask if there was a way they could have asked better for next time, or if they can approach them at a different time of year. So again, script and practice with kids. They're so used to this, right? Communicating through this. They have forgotten face-to-face interactions and how to have a conversation with an adult professional. And by the way, that's something that's going to carry over into everything else they do. Tools for that, the 21st century tool bucket, not a skills tool bucket, right? Okay, let's go on to the next one. It is not all about the money. What? It's about, first and foremost, before you start raising money, you need to raise awareness of who you are and what your program is about. Okay. Yes, you can do that while you're raising money, especially in your first year, but everything needs to be built to carry on from there. Create that positive impression, know your brand, know your why. This is going to make me crazy with this little video thing. And I apologize. I have no idea why I started doing this on all my platforms. But raise awareness of your group and what they do. Okay. And then keep the fun in fundraising. We never did, and I'm just going to take that off of video. We didn't have any kind of fundraising that we didn't have incentives and prizes and fun games. We looked for ways to make fundraising fun, because if it's not, they're not going to go for it. If you have fun, if you get the students to buy in because they're having a great time and they see the value in it, then you're going to be able to get them to go out and raise more. And if they're happy and enthusiastic when they're out raising money, they're going to raise more money because their donors are going to buy into that as well. So what are some of the things you can do? If they hit their goal for a week on fundraising, we let them have turn it in for a quiz grade. They got a little slip of paper they could exchange for a quiz grade, not the final, but they could drop a quiz grade with that. When we were doing back when we were going to Anaheim and it was Disneyland, we did all sorts of fun games that tied into Southern California and Disneyland. Things with characters and theme parks and letting the kids dress up and just encouraging a really fun atmosphere. And by the way, out of 125 kids, we might have 40 that were going to state to compete and maybe only 25 going to ILC. They were a team. The entire class was a team. And so the entire class was part of HOSA because that's where our lessons came from. And so they participated in the fundraising right along with the students who were going. We made that a team effort and got that buy-in, and that actually made things so much easier. Okay.
Oh, I'm coming. All right.
That's fine. Okay, so funding sources, how to find, develop, encourage, acknowledge, appreciate, and maintain your funding sources, and the how and why of giving. So last year in the pandemic, we know that across the board, funding was down 40%. It's still down, although in some areas it has started to come back up. There is a lot of money that wasn't spent during the pandemic that is being spent now. So you do have to know how and why to get in there. When you are looking at, let's just talk about fundraisers in general. I don't promote anything specific. And I'll be honest with you, unless it's an incredible deal, I don't promote selling candles, candy bars, you name it, products. Because the return on investment is so low, and a lot of times you have to pre-purchase, and then you're stuck with unsold property. Right? So that really cuts into, and again, in the toolkit, I have a form that lets you evaluate the cost per unit, how much you're going to make, and what's the anticipated sales. Because here's the thing, I don't know about your schools, but in my community, if somebody comes up with a great fundraising idea, you can bet that by the next year, 8 or 9 people are doing the same thing, and usually at the same time. So you want to find funding sources. So get creative in what kind of fundraisers you do. We did, I want to see if I can't. Let's see if I come back in as a normal person. There we go. We'll see how long that lasts. So we did a bunch of different fundraisers. I have some of those in the toolkit. We did things that were related to healthcare. So the product that we did sell was first aid kits. I'm a huge fan of those. Those go over really well. Everybody needs a first aid kit in their home. And if you can find a manufacturer that gives you a great deal on those are a great way to do. And it used to be, I'm not sure anymore, that you did not need to pre-order. You ordered only what you sold. Always a great benefit. We did a virtual 5K. And who knew that those are actually becoming a thing online now. But we did a virtual, we called it the Couch Potato 5K. And we sent out letters. We got people to sign up for this virtual 5K that was held like usually on a Thursday morning at like 9 a.m. when people were going to be at work. Once people registered, we sent them a race number with some pins and encouraged them to wear that at work so that people would ask them, why were they wearing a race number to work, right? And that was an opportunity to spread that word further. We had fun prizes. Who ran the furthest, who didn't, who ran the fastest time. That was usually a drawing. And it was a drawing. And I think one time it was a little, an 80-some-year-old woman with an arthritic hip. She won that. So we made it fun. Finding those things that tie into what you do, but then also have some meaning behind them. You just want to get that buy-in and make it fun. I just learned about a new one, and I'm going to share it with you. It's not in my toolkit because I just learned about it a couple weeks ago, visiting my daughter down in Georgetown, Texas. And I was talking to a friend who came over from Austin for lunch, and it's called the Red Envelope Challenge. And you would have to be creative in how you do this. But he ordered those little red envelopes, the little Chinese paper money envelopes for Chinese New Year. And they put dollar amounts from $1 up to $100 and put them on a board. And they invited people at an event to choose the envelope that they wanted to fill, to immediately fill it with that much money, a check for, could be, if they were pulled the 97, it was $97. If they had $1 in their pocket, maybe they put the dollar in and put it back up there. That's $5,050 if you have 1 through 100 filled right there. That's not bad. That's a nice little fundraiser for an event. So find those things that work. When you are approaching your donors, again, you want to have a script. You want to say please and thank you. You need to understand that most businesses, especially in a smaller community, have already been hit 20, 30, 40 times. So think of those that maybe don't get asked, maybe physicians' offices, maybe chiropractors, maybe auto dealerships. Come up with something, try to find those ones that haven't, and still understand small businesses get hit a lot. So please and thank you, whether it's a yes or a no. Always, always thank you for your request. A couple of things that we did, we never asked that person more than once, and we made sure that they would know that. If students were going to go out to a particular office, like an orthodontist office, they would say, we just want to let you know, thank you for your donation. We are not going to ask you more than once this year, unless you want us to. Most of them said, thank you. No, just once is enough. But tell them that you're not going to be hit. Your group won't be hitting them over and over and over again. The other thing that you need to do is make sure that you say thank you. And thank you in a very tangible way. So what we did with ILC and with state, we took a picture of the whole group while we were there at competition. And then we wrote a thank you note, put copies of that picture on top of the thank you note, and then included in there a page with a recap of how the students had done. And if that money had been given for a particular student to help them out, then we made sure that they signed it, that they actually wrote the note and signed it. And we had a template that they could use, so they didn't have to think on their feet or come up with different things to write, excuse me. So, but again, that thank you note, that acknowledgement, and then if you send out press releases, make sure you thank your donors in the press releases because it's good for their business. If you do that, if you encourage, acknowledge, appreciate, maintain your funding sources, you should do really well. And with that, again, thinking outside the box, if you have kids competing in like job interviewing skills, human resources, then you should be asking human resources offices and business offices. If you have students competing in physical therapy, then be knocking on the doors of all those physical therapy offices and asking them to help you out. People want to give where they think it's going to benefit them. Okay. All right, teamwork and planning equals success. You need to have that goal. Again, all of this compared, and yes, I am promoting my toolkit, but I'm equally as passionate about people reaching out if they have questions so that they can achieve those goals. And let's see. Funding across the board down 40% during the first aid kits. Oh, okay, just notes there. Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
I was going to add a couple of things just because
Sure.
that's what I do. And when you talked about customer service and teaching that for students, my daughter's been a pharmacist at CVS in her professional life. And she said that was the skill that was lacking most with the pharmacy technicians, just greeting people and not being patient or not being able to act like everything was okay when it really wasn't. So customer service, even if you're not talking about fundraising, but you're talking about fundraising, but some of the skills that you're teaching them, like writing thank you notes, saying please and thank you, those are just things that can't be reinforced enough. So I love the fact that you were talking about that as well. And I also put in the chat too that not everybody may have a HOSA chapter, but there may be other things that they're fundraising for, or there may be other ways that they're promoting their program to get work-based learning opportunities. So some of these same strategies that you were mentioning for fundraising could be kind of folded over into partnerships.
Absolutely. I use this toolkit with different nonprofits in the community that I work for. I do consulting for them, and we use that to help do nonprofit development. So how to develop their nonprofit and build it into something much bigger, and it's that same thing. It's the customer service. When we did the booths downtown and wherever, and we also did all the high school graduations. We were allowed to have a first aid water station at the high school graduations, which was really helpful. And then the kids got to see the other students in the class who were graduating, which was really nice, because we were a community college with feeders, but the students were not allowed to sit down. And this actually was driven by one of the students. He said, take away the chairs. No one gets to sit down when there are people out and about. Every time somebody walks by, you catch their eye and you say hello. Not hello, get over here, but just hi, have a nice evening. And that increased the traffic probably 5-fold of people coming over. And it's just that little bit of impetus to get people to come talk to you. But when they go into a nursing home, I agree with you, customer service skills, right? People go, it's a nursing home. What do you need customer service for? For everything you do. How you speak to an older generation that has been taught customer service skills. And we can all think of those businesses that we know that are really good at that, at customer service. I always think Chick-fil-A.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
It's been my pleasure. Right. And, there are times I'm sure that they're not feeling it, but it comes out of their mouth and they're saying it. And it's so appreciated. And it does make a difference to people when the kids come in with a positive attitude and thank yous and pleases.
I thought I'd mention this, that because I like to talk like you, Theresa, and think about when you go to a conference, or I'm thinking about conferences that we have the honor to sponsor. When you go through the exhibits area, when someone is at their exhibit space and they're just sitting there like playing on their phone or, not really engaging, you don't want to stop at their space, right? If you're standing up and you're smiling and people are saying hello to people like your student had suggested there for your graduations, it just makes a difference. Even you need to teach customer service to some adults that are at our conferences that we go to.
That'll be the next toolkit that comes out. So, Nancy, if you want to just advance it one more.
Okay.
This is my older logo. I have a new website that is coming out hopefully this week. It's supposed to be coming up, but the information is still the same. You can order the toolkits, and those toolkits are only $22.50, and that includes taxes and shipping. And if you wanted to do a bulk order for, say, a bunch of CTE programs at your school or a bunch of clubs or organizations, reach out to me by email and we can work out a special deal, because I can cut the shipping costs a little bit, and we can do that. But $22.50 is not per year. These toolkits are meant to be used year after year.
Okay, I put your website there again, Little Blossom. I hope I spelled it right. Yep, littleblossom.com. So I've been so chatty. Anybody else have anything to add? You're welcome to unmute yourself and
I was gonna
ask.
say, if you've got ideas, I would love to hear if you wanted to share. I don't think anybody's in the same state, so you don't have to worry about people stealing your ideas.
Yeah. Well, there are a couple of people from South Carolina. Did I go back? I didn't mean to.
Theresa, one of the things that I remember about your fundraising and how successful you guys were, is your spaghetti dinners. So didn't you used to have like a school-wide spaghetti or community spaghetti dinner or something like that?
Oh, we did a themed dinner.
Okay.
A themed dinner with silent auction. And I did actually steal that idea from one of the private schools here, but we would come up with a theme every year and we would get sponsors to decorate the tables. And then the ticket sales would go to the program, and we got the food donated usually or at low cost from, you know, like Olive Garden or whatever. We would get some parent who was a chef to manage the kitchen. So we were staying within food service regulations. And then we would have a silent auction with it. But we had so much fun. We might do books, or we might do movies, or we might do countries one year. So every table was like a different country, and it could be anything from paper plates to fine china. People love showing their creative streak, but we would pull in between $8,000 and $10,000 in an evening by getting people involved. So the students did the prepping of the food, they did the waiting on tables, they ran the silent auction, and then they also provided the entertainment, which was a chance for them to show off other skills that they had as well.
And so did you do that in your cafeteria, or what kind of space did you have for that?
We used one, no, there was no cafeteria at the community college. We did use cafeteria at one of the high schools one time. We used a fellowship hall at a local church one time, and then we rented out a general hall. We were able to get a good price on it. It was a community hall one year. So, and again, but when you're planning that, you want to plan out what is it going to cost. And I just finished a big project with one of my clients, and the price for the venue that they were using doubled from last year. Ticket prices, when they were now using Ticketmaster, so we had to change to a donation format. You want to be aware of your costs, because what they thought they were going to make this year, they weren't able to, because of the differences in cost. So you want to evaluate that. And they were committed to staying in this one place. And I'm thinking, you guys got to look at other venues. You've got to look at other places that are going to be a lot less expensive for you to set up in.
Does anyone else on with us have any fundraisers that you did that were especially successful, or maybe that you wish you hadn't done? Okay, she had a question. Be thinking about that if you want to share your successes or your challenges.
Where can you find the toolkit? You can littleblossomllc.com. There's a little shop button up there.
Anybody, y'all too shy to share about?
Hi, Theresa. My name is Melissa. I'm from North Carolina. So with your silent auction, I'm moving to a school that's in a really small county. It's the only high school in the county, and it's kind of a smaller community. Who would you reach out to for donation of those silent auction? Where would you seek that stuff from?
Oh my goodness. And I am from a smaller community. I mean, Grand Junction, it's the biggest thing between Salt Lake and Denver, but it's a small community. I just finished actually for another client doing a silent auction this past spring, and we put the word out. We went to everything from, traditional businesses that might be able to give us something, but we also asked the students and their families, does anybody have a business that they would be willing to donate a gift certificate to? Does somebody make jewelry at home on the side? Would somebody be willing to do a cooking lesson who's a chef, or provide a meal for a family? Oh my gosh, we found so many, we looked for creative things. We went to the uniform shop in town and they donated a stethoscope. That was, man, people were hot bidding on that for the students. And, you know, I think anything that you can that's like that. And then we also asked the students in their classes to maybe get together a group of people and come up with some donations. I don't know if the community you're going to has a Dollar Tree, but they're always great for maybe putting together a spring garden basket.
Yeah, here in North Carolina, I feel like there's a Dollar General about every 5 miles.
Yeah, absolutely.
There
Every
you go. So
every zip code.
there you go. A bucket with, you know, seeds and maybe some gardening tools and some gloves. And when we did our spring silent auction thing, that sort of thing did really well. Sporting equipment that's in really good shape. A lot of times people have things, sporting goods equipment, like skiing is big here. So we got some skis and snowboards donated. They weren't brand new, but they were in really good condition. And they went for like $100 a pair. So, and those are things that otherwise would have just been donated to the thrift store. So you have to get a little bit creative, but I think there are lots of opportunities out there.
Look at Andrea. She was willing to share a challenge. You see that, Theresa?
I'll never do the dollar chocolate bar again. Too many students, damaged, ruined. Yep. Absolutely. And I tell you, I think when my kids did the candy bar challenge, it was like, okay, well, I'm going to buy $20 worth, but then I really bought $40 worth because, you know, we ate the $20 worth and then we stuck some in the, you know, you end up doing more and it ends up going back on the families. And what you want to go, and I talk about in my toolkit, is for OPM. And that's not the drug. We're not selling drugs to make money. OPM, other people's money. In as much as possible, you want to spread your fundraising out into the community wherever you can find it so that you're not always hitting the parents and grandparents. So donor fatigue is real, and parents, you know, it is hard sometimes.
Melissa, you want to tell us about the chicken pot pie?
Yeah.
There's a store in Winston-Salem. It's called Mrs. Pumpkins, and they sell chicken pot pies. So we've done that fundraiser for the last 3 years at the school I'm at, and they pre-order. So the students go out with it's food, but they pre-order, they go out with the order form and they get orders ahead of time. And normally we run this fundraiser for about 2 weeks. And then I think it's about 2 weeks later that Mrs. Pumpkins brings all the chicken pot pies and delivers them. But they, on their full-size chicken pot pies, like a full-size pie for a family. And here in Winston-Salem, it's Moravian, which is not vegetables, or with vegetable chicken pot pies. So they have each kind of full-size chicken pot pie, and then baked spaghetti, vegetarian baked spaghetti, little 4-packs of single serving chicken pot pies, which can be Moravian or with the vegetables, and then a brownie is a dessert. And so we've made at least $3,000 to $4,000 every time we've done that fundraiser.
That is awesome.
Yeah, we have it delivered right before Thanksgiving, so everybody gets excited about getting their pot pies for Thanksgiving.
Do they come frozen or?
Yeah, I think they call it flash frozen. So they're
Oh.
hard frozen and they deliver them in the cooler still frozen. So it's just out of the freezer long enough to get it from school home.
Yeah.
I was going to say, and that's an awesome one. And it's not one that you hear about all the time, because you hear about, you know, frozen, you hear about bread dough, right? Or cookie dough. And again, that's hard because everybody's doing it. So if you can find one that does, one of the other things that's really big in our community right now is we have 4 or 5 restaurants that will host their charity of the month will be a specific organization. And it's either for Chick-fil-A will do it for like 2 nights. And everybody who eats there, if you take your receipt and drop it in the box, they'll take a certain percentage of that and just give it to the school. or the program. So that's a great way to do it. That's pretty, it's passive. You don't have to do a lot for it. You have a couple people show up and sit at a table and explain what you are. But other than that, you just encourage people to go down. Some of the pizza places will do that. We have a local pizzeria downtown, and they'll do it for a month.
Oh, wow.
Anybody who goes in that month and orders and puts their receipts in to the jar for that charity, they write a check for that charity. And it may not be, you may be talking like $600 or $700, but $700 should not have to do anything really except promote that restaurant. That's an easy. Normally, I would raise about 45,000 in 2.5 months when we were getting ready for ILC. Yeah.
Wait,
And then
did you say 4,000 or 5,000?
45.
Okay. That's more than you made as a teacher, right?
Yep. And there were a lot of years,
Definitely.
I paid for myself. That's why I say when you're figuring out your costs, make sure you put your costs in. It took me a while to get smart enough to figure that out.
Yes. Well, Theresa, you are quite the expert on this, and I know you did. I believe you did this particular one at our conference in Charleston this year, right?
I did both that one and moving into the classroom from industry.
Well, we really appreciate your willingness to share your expertise and the fact that you keep your toolkit so affordable. We know you're a teacher, right? And you're a nurse too, right?
I am. My bachelor's is in nursing and my master's is organizational leadership.
Okay, well, I'm going to use the few little family members we have here with us. I'm going to put this poll up here and see if it works.
Sure.
Are y'all seeing the poll? No? Anybody see?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, good. So I'm just taking a vote about if you had a best time of day. These are all Eastern time because the world should all be on Eastern time like you, but since you aren't, so I just put these times here. We actually have the pleasure to serve like 6 time zones because we have members all the way. We actually have a member of our teacher organization from Australia. So I'm not sure if we'll be able to accommodate them. But anyway, I want to give a shout out to Mary from New Jersey. She joined the teacher organization while we were on the call. And that's not what this is all about, for sure. This is, we just thought we'd mention it since this was the first webinar of the spring semester, and the teacher organization is very kind to help sponsor these. So with that, I did stop the recording, didn't I? I think I did. I'll stop it now. You'll receive a certificate of participation for